Good morning, everybody. This Wednesday morning for RHI, it's your daily dose of courage, hope, attitude, and inspiration. RHI stories of past patients, and this is sponsored by Wilson Kehoe Winningham, our longtime donors. We have probably 20 years relationship with them. They're just fabulous, and they make this series possible. So special thanks to them, our friends. And today we have a very special guest, JoAnn Pattison.
Right.
I'm close.
Pattison.
She's joining us today. She was a patient here, and she's going to share her story with us. If you'd like to make a gift in honor of JoAnn or any of our past patients, please feel free to click on the link and make a gift. We are a nonprofit hospital, so all of our philanthropic gifts, the monies we receive through donors and grants and corporate sponsorships, that's what really allows us to excel and become the best rehabilitation in the Midwest. Without philanthropy, we couldn't do that. As a nonprofit, we've done about $900,000 of charity care every year, so our operational margin is pretty small, and it's the power of philanthropy that really lets us do all the research that we do and provide the best training and education, attract the best clinicians. So we can't do that without you. Please feel free to click on that link and join us in continuing our mission to provide the best care possible for our patients. So JoAnn, I like to keep this fresh and real, and I don't know your story, so why don't you share with me and the rest of the people that are watching, how did you first come to know RHI?
Well, first of all, I lived in Florida, and we were starting our vacation, and we were on I-75 going north near Gainesville, Florida, which was a good thing that we were near Gainesville. Anyway, we had an automobile accident, and unfortunately I had some severe back injury, and so we were at the hospital, went in. They were very good to me, and they said, you need to have an MRI, and I said, oh no, I don't do MRIs, I don't want to go on an MRI. So the nurse said, oh, okay, we'll take care of it for you. So the next thing I remember was I looked toward the bottom of my bed, and at the foot of my bed, the doctor was standing. I believe it was the doctor, the surgeon. Anyway, he said, now, can you move your foot? And I said, well, I tried, and I could only move my right toe. That was the only thing I could move after the surgery. So that didn't look too promising at that point. That was 3 years ago in June. So anyway, we started doing a little bit of rehab there, and they were trying to get me to feel a little better, to the pain and everything. So then my daughter said, well, you have to go to RHI. We have to go up to Indianapolis. I just can't have you here, and I don't know what hospitals they have available. And so we came to RHI, and that was a very good thing to happen. I spent 5 weeks here at RHI. I was only supposed to spend 4, but the doctor and my therapist said she needs another week. She's really kind of getting over a hump, and we want to get her over that hump. And so the insurance said, all right, then they would let me do that. And by the time I left, I was using the parallel bars a little bit with my therapist, and she said, I want you to take a few steps before you go. So we started, and she had a little stool in front of me, and I was walking on the parallel bar I was holding on and trying. So I made 2 steps. So that was a big day. And then after that, I had a few more days, and then I could ring the bell, and I was ready to leave. And I left in a motorized wheelchair, and I began my outpatient surgery. We came back here, we lived in Carmel, and we made the trek. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 days a week I came, and it was just wonderful. They worked so hard with me. trying to sit up by myself, doing other things with my legs, and the OTs worked with me with my hands, and we kept trying and be stronger with my hands. So everybody here just worked so hard, and I'm so grateful to them. And then I finished up outpatient therapy here about the end of the year. That was the end of 2016. So at the beginning of 2017, we found that there was a satellite RHI in Carmel. So that was just great because we could go there, and Barb Reed was there, and she has a lot of experience with my type of injury. I don't know if I mentioned the fact that I have 2 rods down my spinal cord, and I have 10 screws in my neck. So so then I had to go to a doctor here who is a neurosurgeon, and that was Dr. Pattison. He's just a great guy, and he kept checking me out. And one time when he came in, he said, I heard you had a screw loose. And we all laughed. I mean, he just is such a nice man, and he happened to know the surgeon who did my surgery in Florida, which, you just can't imagine, but so he asked me, Dr. Potts asked me if it was all right. He said, well, would it be all right if I told Dr. Ho how you're doing by email? And I said, sure. So he kept Dr. Potts kept Dr. Ho informed about how I was doing and how I could now walk with a rollator, and so that's kind of my story. I don't know. It's a good story. There are times when I get discouraged and think, oh, I'm not doing well, and then I have to remember back when I couldn't feed myself, and the OTs kept working, and they gave me different kinds of things to hold on to, and I finally could begin to eat my oatmeal in the morning and do things like that. And I'm just so grateful for both the OTs and the PTs, and they're so friendly. My daughter and my husband would say, you just talk to them so much. You get anything done? I said, oh, sure, we get lots done. But they just are fun to talk to, and I enjoyed it. So now I'm able to walk with a rollator, and that's that was a big deal for me, to be able to get out of the chair my husband calls electric chair, but it's a motorized chair, to be able to not use the motorized chair and have to go in a van. He was so glad to get rid of the van and let us be able to use the rollator. And I still have a fold-up wheelchair, and we put it in the back of the car, because sometimes if we end up parking and it's just too far to go, we can use that. But most of the time I try very hard to stick with my rollator, because I know that's the best thing for me. So
that is quite a story. All the way in Florida.
Right, and my 2 daughters live here in Carmel, so that's how we got to Carmel and how we got to RHI, and I'm grateful.
You said one of your daughters told you, well, you need to go to RHI.
Yeah, yes.
So why did she recommend RHI? How did she know RHI? What's the story there?
Oh, there, she teaches occupational therapy, and 2 of her students were here. Emily Miller helped. She called Emily Miller and said, how do I get my mother into RHI? Mm-hmm. It's not easy, I guess, coming from another state. And so Emily got her the information, and fortunately we could fly here. I was 10 days in the hospital in Florida, and then we flew here, and when we got off the plane, there was an ambulance waiting for us, and they whooped us right over here, and Emily was standing outside waiting for us. So it was so nice to have somebody greet us, and we came here, and I was here for 5 weeks, it didn't seem, when I say 5 weeks, it seemed to go by so quickly at the time, but now when I look back on it, I think, oh, 5 weeks. How could I be somewhere in the hospital 5 weeks? But
Right.
everybody here has been just great. The nursing staff and all the PTs and OTs, just, they were good friends.
Yeah. You know, our theme this year, we're really trying to remember that we are a family. And I think the clinicians, your physicians, the therapists, the nurses, they really feel like they have that connection with each patient. We know that we put our patients first in their care, but it's even more than that, right? It's so much more than just providing the best clinical care. It's so much more than that.
Yeah, you just become friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is nice.
Which is special. So you remember all of your recovery while you were here. I'm looking at this book that you have on your rollator. Is that kind of a document for documentation of your recovery?
Yes, my daughter and I decided that it would be good to just write down all of the things I went through. And so she started out because she and my other daughter flew to Florida, and they were there, you know, right away. And so she could document that, what I could do there, and then coming here, we have all of the documentation. Now I forgot what it's called, but when you put the tape on your legs and then it goes to a machine, the wires go out and go to a machine, and
The FES cycle.
that's right.
Yeah.
That was a tremendous help to me, because that got my muscles, waking my muscles up, and that's what we had to do. There were times when I didn't think it was so much fun, but you know, especially pulling my arms backwards, that was the hardest part. But it woke up my muscles so that we could begin to do things. And then I had to eventually, when I was almost finished with my first outpatient, they had this harness that they put on you, and then you're on they wheel you around and gradually put your feet closer and closer to the floor, and you have to try and walk. And that just really, after doing all the stimulation, that was a big thing. And that was I used to call it my torture chamber, but I knew it was good for me. And I think and when I get a little down, which I think everybody does, I shouldn't get down too far, because I'm able to use my rollator and get around, and a lot of people aren't able to. And then my daughter reminds me of what it was like, and then I say, okay, now I'm grateful and I'm blessed with being able to do this much.
Right. I just love this book. I've never seen anybody do that. It's such a brilliant idea.
Yeah, she put it's my journal. It's a journal of my amazing recovery. It takes a family, and this is my family. My 2 daughters.
That's so great.
2 daughters, and then I have twin granddaughters and a grandson who just started IU, and the 2 girls. This one is in her 2nd year of physical therapy, and the other one teaches mentally handicapped children in Carmel. And so this book shows just show you one thing, it's kind of nice here. We kept track of the stimulus. What did you call it again?
The FES, right?
FES. So I had all the FES that I did, and where I was, and how how far it took me. So it really, it's just very, it's good.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it really is.
I love this idea. It's so
wonderful. We
wonderful.
kept track. She wrote everything down, and then I had no idea, and then at Christmas, she gave this to me for a Christmas present.
That's a wonderful gift.
Yeah, so that was nice, and it's a good reminder. And my family has been very, very supportive. I can't even, and my husband still does so much for me. If I were by myself at Woodland Terrace, I would have to be in assisted living. I mean, I can't do a lot of different things, by myself. But he gets after me if I'm not exercising or something, using the...
He's your cheerleader. It may not feel that way sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes, but he says, well, we have to do that. No, it's, I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm grateful to be where I am.
You've had a wonderful recovery, such great support, wonderful clinical care.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think what's so interesting about this story that you're sharing about your recovery, you brought up two things. You brought up the FES cycle.
Yes.
And you brought up it's an overground trainer, walker, gait trainer.
Yes.
And you're strapped in so that it can help support some of your body weight. So
right.
You're not walking with your full body weight, which makes it easier to walk. And it also makes sure you're safe so that if you lose your balance or you trip, you're not going to fall. And those are both things that were funded through philanthropy. The foundation has supported both of those, as well as many of the other tools that our clinicians use.
Mm-hmm.
The robotic and technological equipment that's required to provide the best possible care is expensive. It's not cheap, it's very expensive. And as I said, we're a nonprofit, so donations help us do that. Not all facilities are able to offer that kind of training for people, and you feel that that's a big part of what really helped in your recovery.
Oh, very much.
Woke up your muscles, you said, right? Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. So when you think about all the people before you who donated that allowed those things to happen, as well as attracting all the therapists and physicians that helped you, what would you like to say to those people who donated the funds to make that happen available?
Thank you. Thank you very much, because without it, I wouldn't be where I am. Absolutely.
Right.
I had to have that stimulation to get my muscles to realize themselves again, to know they could work.
Yeah.
And the other one, as I said, I called it a torture chamber, but it was, I know it was so good, and some days, we'd do it and I could walk farther, and then it was the goal to walk all the way around the room, and so it was great. So.
And your story brings up another really important message that I'd like to drive home to everybody watching, is that we don't have patients that expect to be here, right? Everybody that comes here, they're not in a good condition, they're not in a good state, and it was unexpected. So it can happen to anybody at any time. I mean, you were in an auto accident, right? It wasn't like you
planned it.
It was totally unexpected.
Right.
It could have been anybody. We almost all of us drive every day, and things like this happen, and they just do. And so we're so fortunate to have a place like RHI to provide the best possible outcomes and care for our patients right here in Indianapolis. It's such a blessing for our community that people don't know about unless they need to be here.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and your journey.
Well, you're very welcome. I'm very happy with this hospital, and I mention it to people, and because it's been great for me, and thank you.
That's really wonderful to hear. Thank you. And thank you for joining us today for this week's episode of RHI, our story of courage, hope, attitude, and inspiration, which you have all in abundance. And thank you again to our sponsors, Wilson Kehoe Winningham. We will see you next week. Thank you.